Hello, welcome to Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi.
And I'm Chris Yi.
And today we're going to be reviewing Pantheum, the Demigods of Olympia.
This is the first game published from Archwood Games. I believe this was a Kickstarter that fulfilled, and so there's a deluxe-ier edition and a not-so-deluxe edition out there. I think that we're just reviewing based off of the regular, though.
Yeah, I just used the regular. We do have some deluxe upgrade pieces. I didn't show them in the overview. But there's like a fascinating weird die that you roll, and
a three-sided die.
It's a three-sided triangular long die, and yeah, two sides face up, and those are the two colors that you get.
Or you could use the regular die, which is just a normal one. Anyway, so so this one here is a bit of a tactical. It almost feels a little bit like an area control game without feeling at all like an area control game.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm going to show you very briefly how to play it, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts.
In Pantheum, players are playing as one of the four gods, and they're trying to make this world a finalized landscape, and they're doing that while following their divine plan. And everyone is going to have a different divine plan, so they're going to have different goals for each one of these spaces. Now, the way that you finalize a space is you have to somehow, by moving or adding tokens, get a space to have 3 of the same color token on it, and then take a lock action and eventually actually be able to place out one of these permanent lock spaces, and so those spaces can no longer change color. Now, the way that you're going to get those pieces out is actually by taking these actions over here and kind of building up an engine of cards that you'll collect from over here. So let's take a look at our character card. This has no special abilities, but it does show you the turn order. So on your turn, you're going to roll this die. You're going to gain whatever the circles are on that die, and then you're going to move your god to a new tile. It is required to move. You can move anywhere you want to. You perform an action column, and then you're going to recruit any demigods over here that you can afford. So let's talk about the action columns. Initially, you have the basic actions that are on the bottom without any of these cards. Green lets you place out new discs, red lets you move them around, and then blue lets you lock a space. You do have to spend 2 additional, as well as having 3 already out on a space to be able to lock it. When you gain cards, you add them into the matching color section, or if you gain a white card, you do get to choose which section you want to place it in. At the end of the game, these cards are worth points, but they're only worth the highest point card in that column. So right now, instead of 5 points, I'd actually only have 4 points from cards. So the other way you gain points in the game is actually to have your token showing here on locked tiles, as well as having landscapes match your divine plan. So the way that works is if we look up here, I have my token here, but it does not match my divine plan, so I just get 4 points one time. However, I come down here to this green space, I've locked it and it matches my divine plan, which means I'm going to score this 3 points 2 times, 1 for this token and 1 for matching my plan. So if I were to score everything up, I would gain 4 points. I'd get this 3 points twice, this 2 points twice, and then I would get the 3 points and the 1 point here. The way that the end game is triggered is when a certain determinate amount based on player count comes out of these little tokens, and they have all 4 gods on it, which means that other people, of course, can lock spaces, and they can have their god be the defined one that shows at the end of the game. Now, I know I didn't explain all the rules, and I didn't go over all the cards that are possible. There's a whole huge deck, but that is a basic overview of how you play Pantheum.
Getting into the strategy and the game, there are some pros and some cons for me. So I typically don't like abstract style games and this kind of like area control style of I'm moving around, I'm setting stuff up, but I don't want to set it up too much because you're just going to walk in and grab it from me. And so there's like that almost that little feeling of playing chicken. But I think that because this has the engine building of the card columns, it takes it from that very basic abstract game that I would generally dislike. And it does throw a little bit more in there, so I feel like I'm creating my own powers as I go.
There's a mechanism, and I tend to be very cautious in it, is any time that people can kind of collectively work towards something. Once the 5th card is played here, the person who played the 5th card wins the stack or wins the area or whatever. That I don't love that mechanism. And with this game, it's kind of the whenever there's a 3rd token, then someone can come in and lock that area down as the color of those tokens. And some games get around that by offering clever play in different ways. And this one doesn't do that for me, not enough.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I feel like it's very obvious that because if you're standing on a space, you lock it down, no one can do anything to kind of toy with that space, to puzzle around it. You're just kind of locked down. Well, once a space has 3 tokens on it, you should stand on it, and that should be your move.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that makes sense. Like, it should be a move. But I think that there's more to it because instead of just you put out a piece, I put out a piece, you put out a third piece, now I'm going to come in and finish it, it starts creating that tension a little bit earlier. And so I don't even want to be the person to put out the second piece there unless I'm really, really want that to match my card. And so I think that it creates an interesting dynamic because I really want it to match my card, but I also don't want you to finish it and get those points. And so I think it creates that sense of like co-op, not cooperative, but like semi-co-op.
The collaboration.
Yeah, that collaboration of working together but working differently. And so you're trying to look around and see as you're playing, you're like, okay, I see that person put a blue there. I also want a blue there. I'm okay with this. So I'm more willing to help in that space and put out the second one so that they can go on the space, put out the third, and then finish it the next round. So I feel like there's a little bit more to it than just, hey, I blocked a space.
Yeah, I don't know. The entire blocking of a space mechanism, it almost never works for me. Splendor had that in one of their expansions, right? The strongholds that you just kind of block a space, and it feels like such a blunt force type of interaction that it just makes it unfun for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is kind of a recurring theme with some of the mechanisms in this game, like blocking a space so no one can mess with it. It's probably necessary, but it feels like a speed bump for having fun. Also, at the start of each round, you roll that die that we've talked about. You get 2 different resources based on the 2 colors showing on the die, and you're just kind of at the mercy of that die. There's not really ways to mitigate the roll. There's not really ways to trade out resources for other ones. So if you are trying to work towards blue and you just keep rolling red and green...
That is something that I very much agree with. There are 3 colors total. Like, why can't I just pick 2? Like, 2 different colors. Like, out of all of that, why is it the die roll that there's only green cards that cost green out in the market? And for the last 4 turns, I've rolled 0 green. In fact, nobody at the table's rolled green, and that market is empty. Like,
the market is stagnant because of that. Yeah, or people, like the one person who rolls green is putting it out on tiles. You're like, look... You know, and the game becomes more interesting as you get those card powers, but it's slow to get that.
Yes. I think it's slow to get the card powers, and I think that the card lineup ends up being so random. So you could have cards that are expensive. They cost 3 of the same color. That's really hard to get when you're netting only +1 basically every round. Like, you're rolling a die, you're getting 2, but every action requires you to play 1 or 2 out. And so you're netting almost nothing each round. So it's hard to collect. It takes a while to collect up enough. And then from that point, you are then going based on a very random market. So it's like random die, random market. And then the cost of the card doesn't actually determine like how strong the card is when played. It seems to just be balanced based on the victory points of that card. And so... You know, a card could be out that's worth 1 or it costs 1 blue, and it feels a lot stronger of a power than the one that costs 3 blue.
Yes.
And so
or one of each color resource.
So I feel like that balancing is a little bit off, and it just creates more of that sense of randomness, which is a little bit more of a struggle in a game that is so tactical and so I just want to be so precise with, I think.
And I think some of the powers on those cards, they're neat when you line them up. Every time I take a blue action, I'm going to be able to fire off pa, 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 pa as well, right? Every time I do green, you know, it starts off as one basic action and it grows over the course of the game. That's great. The downside being that some of those abilities, you're not going to be able to fire off very often because of your dearth of resources, because you're not collecting things very quickly. Some of them offer discounts, and that's good, right? That kind of helps the game speed along, but it doesn't really increase the tempo or increase the energy. There's no crescendo, I find, with the game, because yes, you're getting more powers, and that's good, but it really is just kind of, are the areas on the board getting locked down? And are they getting locked down kind of favorably towards you or not? Because you have those private objective goals where multiple people might want that square over there in the corner to be blue, except for me. And that feels bad.
I think not having a crescendo is a good explanation for this, in the sense of there's no way to like really focus from the beginning of like, I'm going to work on these abilities and these possibilities and I'm going to grow this and this is going to be my tactic. And so there's never a point where you're like, yes, I'm super succeeding at my ability. And instead it feels like I'm collecting those little resources. I'm tactically doing my area control-ish stuff on the board. And then once I complete a square, yes, I start over again.
Yes.
And now I have no more pieces. Or I buy a card, cool, and I start over again. And there are some cards that may give you more pieces. There's some cards that let other people have pieces. If I like hurt you with the card and I give it to you, every time you do a certain action, I get stuff. There's some of that. But I think in the end, I don't like that starting over mechanism.
Yeah, I think it's an okay puzzle on the board. Mm-hmm. I think it's not a very strong personal engine build or tableau build, which...
And the points on the cards are so sad that it's the highest in each column instead of adding them all together. So you could be like, hey, I collected all these cards, 4 points, except they're not really 4 points because they were all worth 2.
Yeah, my house is a 2. Yeah. So the game feels like it doesn't give enough, right? It doesn't give enough resources, doesn't give enough flexibility or anything. It's so, unfortunately, I think kind of lowly of the game.
Yeah, so what would you give it a score-wise?
For score-wise, I'm giving this one a 4. I think that between my dislike of the production and the aesthetic value of it, and mixed with the mechanisms that don't really work for me, the level of interaction that's too simple and blunt force, and not having enough to do that's exciting on my turns. Turns can be fairly quick, to speak to some strengths of it. And I think that it is an interesting tactical puzzle, but not nearly enough for me to overcome those things that I see as very blatant downsides to it.
Okay, I'm going to give this a 6. I do like the aesthetic. I think it looks lovely. And I think that it fits that demigod aspect of like it's very larger than life and very non-realistic in the art. And I appreciate that. The actual gameplay, like I mentioned before, I think that the abstract nature of it or the tactical nature of it is more interesting to me than I thought it was going to be because of the cards and because the way the columns work and because of the little puzzle of, when do I need to line up to block something and when do I not? Because there's usually more to do than just a single space on the board that you're blocking. And so I like that. I do think that there is a little bit too much randomness to the card. I wish that I could a little bit more focus in on a specific path or a specific ability. And honestly, I wish the scoring was a little bit more interesting other than I did finish the space or it is on my card. And that's kind of it, plus maybe a point or 2 from each column. So, I think by the end of this, just in the end, I would play it again if someone really wanted to. Like, that's what a 6 is to me. But I'm never going to go out of my way to play it myself.
All right. Well, there you go. That's our thoughts on Pantheum here. And I'm sure that plenty of people have other thoughts. And if you have reasons why you really enjoy this game, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear what you'll have to say.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm Wendy Yi.
And I'm Chris Yi.
And this is Pantheum. Go be a demigod.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.